not much.
I'm hungry.
Literally or figuratively?
No, literally. You ever eat food that completely changes your mood?
Yeah, coffee all the time. No,
Well,
but yeah, I mean other foods. If you have some really dense food, you get tired and or I don't know, bloated feeling sometime. I don't know.
yeah. I'm trying to eat clean. I'm still recovering from my shroom overdose a while back, and I think my diet is really affecting me. Like I think my whole mental regulation thingamajig module is off. So, and I feel like things are very sensitive up here. I'm pretty effed up right now. So
You haven't been exercising too, have you? Because of being
I
locked
have.
in.
I
Where did you find something?
what's today? Friday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I ran 1.5 miles. Uh, Yesterday, I did some shoulder raises. So I mean, I've been trying to get it in to try to like battle it. Uh, I just want this thing to be over, man. Anyways, you look different. You went to the barber or something?
Not exactly. Um, kind of just went into the bathroom one day and cut it all off. So
You must be going through something too. Usually, at least speaking for myself, whenever I'm battling something, the first thing I do is modify my beard or my hair. Well, no hair anymore, but
yeah, yeah. I call it Shane Walshing myself because there's this scene from the show Walking Dead where this character Shane Walsh just goes and does something evil, and then he like goes and the first thing he does is shave his head afterwards. But it's kind of a trope I've noticed that like if you need to raise your evilness in television, you just make yourself bald.
I guess that's one way.
Yeah, like all
Was it
all evil people in TV have like Lex Luthor. Think of that, or like
Magneto?
he's got hair, but
Does he?
no,
Okay.
yeah, Professor X doesn't, um, but like if you think of Doctor Evil, or is it Doctor Evil
Yeah.
from Austin Powers?
Hmm.
Like he's bald for a reason. A lot of the Bond villains are bald, um, but yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, the scene's just kind of like him standing in the mirror, just like shaving his head hair off, and it's like, so I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go be evil and shave my hair off.
There you go. Did you? I saw a tweet that you were considering. Did you pledge to it?
The pledge to the
Your language?
oh, I have no, I haven't gone and put it all together yet, but I'm still letting the ideas ruminate. I'm not sure if I'll actually go through with it, but it's kind of a fun mental exercise to figure out how you would take something that's not a programming language or even remotely possible to think of it that way, and then turn it into something. Find a scheme to structure structure it in such a way that you could actually execute commands that would have some outcome. Um, I'm still considering how I just got to actually sit down and try to see what commands I would need to actually accomplish it, and see if the scheme of the use and me words combined together would would produce commands. So the idea there would be, if you look at a lot of job postings, and I kind of detailed this out, it starts with something like at company, we value ourselves and our customers, blah, blah, blah. It's our mission to blah, 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 and we do this. We work as a blah, 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 and our blah, blah, blah. As a thing, you will. Do you have what it takes? And I'm not sure that the you can mix the sentences well enough with the you and me words to actually get it to be. So you'd have to do a lot of wordplay to make it sound natural. But if you turn those into ones and zeros, you could map into a binary, map it into binary, and then convert that into commands.
That reminds me of Rockstar language.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's where I not necessarily that particular idea, but when I watched a video from, I don't know if it was NDC or what, about esoteric languages, and the guy who made Rockstar did it. So and then they got me thinking about esoteric languages a little bit more and having fun. And then when I was looking through job postings, I'm like, I wonder if you could turn this format into code, and that's where it kind of came. I think to getting the like having a good set of, so like we hard code things at times, but like if you look at a lot of assembly language programs, there's like a data section where you start with a bunch of data that you use with. I think you can use, the scheme to use the requirements section to seed data is probably a pretty good one. Just because there's ways you can put natural numbers in there. Like 5+ years experience, could put a 5 into a data segment. But then there's a pretty standard way of saying like must have, and then some sentence, or experience with some sentence, and that sentence you can find a way to interpret that into numbers and go from there. So,
well, I'm the only person that thinks that the resume is a poor source of gauging someone's qualifications.
Yeah, I hate resumes, man.
I don't understand why it's being used in 2020.
Yeah. Well, I tweeted something about that a while ago too. Like, I thought the next time I would be looking for a job, resumes would be obsolete. But I mean, I suppose it's a gatekeeping thing, but all it does is just potentially prove that you're good at making resumes.
Yeah, it proves that you're good at working the system and playing to the algorithms, or HR people that have no clue what they're looking for except for keywords on the document. It's stupid.
Yeah. I guess the problem is there's no real good, there's not a great alternative at this point.
You don't think machine learning, you don't think Googling somebody, and hopefully the first page, at least half of it is professional artifacts that they left over as their web footprint.
Yeah, but that could be, that could also just be, indicative of somebody who's good at putting those things together in the same way that a resume is. If you're good at marketing yourself, those things come forth, but that doesn't necessarily gauge you as a person.
Yeah, but I think it's
interviews don't either.
I think it's hard to fake that you're active in the community. I think it is.
Yeah. If that's what's valued, if you're looking for somebody who's has community involvement, sure, that's one indicator of it.
Stack Overflow reputation, which doesn't have to be answers; it'd be questions too, right? GitHub, I'm like, that doesn't really matter to me, but basically, do you have any type of professional footprint on the web? If you're not on Stack Overflow, you're either really smart or what's wrong with you. Like, what else is there?
You have other hobbies. It's probably it.
Well, no, but Stack Overflow isn't a hot, well for people answering it, but like almost everybody goes to Stack Overflow to get a question answered. Like it's just so there should be
I've,
some
I've,
footprint
I've maybe
of
once.
involvement. Yeah, really?
I think I've maybe submit one question on Stack Overflow, and it was
Really?
something that it was an Azure uh, thing, web job thing, and it was because their API wasn't fully fleshed out yet. There's
You're
a
that
bug.
smart. You're that smart that you've only gone to Stack Overflow one time to ask a question.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm that smart, but I've only gone there once. I've only had the need to once, where I've hit the wall and I've just gone, nope, there's no, I can't explain this. I need to figure out, or actually, I don't even know if it was. Let me look at that question. Somebody asked a question. Less. I don't think we're recording a podcast. This is just you do put this on YouTube. Questions. Is there a way to make Azure Service Bus out parameter optional?
The answer is no.
Why did I ask this?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, obviously, you're trying to get stuff done. This sounds like a funky design issue.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it was. I wonder if it was because I wanted something to just kick off a process, but there is no response. Um, yeah. The pattern of specifying null for an out parameter works for Azure queues, but throws an exception for service bus queues. It's a bug in the SDK. This was in 2014. So they actually said this is a bug. It should be able to set this to null. And it was fixed at least in 2016. So yeah.
To hurry up and relay my status, I took like 2 or 3 days off from working on my passion project. Um, my gainfully employed project, I'm writing a browser for a native experience on a mobile device, which is interesting. I did start working on the passion project this morning for about an hour and a half before the session started, and specifically, uh, I am I'm finalizing my implementation for a bank card transaction when the courier goes to the restaurant or the store to pay for an item. Um, I basically take the customer's. I don't even know how this works anymore. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
I do.
eat some.
Yeah, I do. There's two different cards. One is bank card information from the customer. The other one is bank card information from me, the business, that I issue to the couriers. Um, I made a decision that it's probably best based on all the different branches of execution when a customer places an order that I immediately just hold their funds on their card and until that order has been delivered to that customer, in which I then capture those funds, which means that they now have a debit on their card, or for whatever reason, if the courier gets run over by a truck or something, or the courier cancels or the customer cancels, then I release the hold on their card. I've been working on that stuff for like over a week off and on. And persisting that data or that state to Azure storage tables and trying to wire that up between my different services, including the customer app customer app places the order, and I think the customer app also sends a hold request to my bank card transaction service, and then based on a cancellation or maybe even a timeout or the successful delivery, then actual debit is performed, aka a capture using the Stripe API. That's my status right now. Hopefully, I'll have that done by this weekend, at the end of this weekend.
Cool.
And then I could update my resume and declare that I unlocked the Stripe integration achievement. And that's it.
Yeah, there you go. Cool.
I started this project April 6th of 2019.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've worked on a professional project for that long, but never a personal project for over a year. You got some what's the word I'm looking for? Commitment.
Well, it's analogous to doing a marathon by walking. That's pretty much what I've been doing. Like I was pretty good for like I think a year of committing to like 2 hours a day, morning and evening. And now it's like, now I'm just trying to. I'm lucky if I could get 6 hours a week being out of 7 days. But I mean, as long as I make progress at least every 3 days, I'm good. I mean, honestly, I kind of blame the pandemic. It kind of gave me an excuse to slow down even more. Honestly, I probably should be trying to speed up because of it. But
Yeah. Have you searched for someone to buy your system so that they can do the business aspect of it?
no, well, there's some drug dealers, but nah, not really.
Yeah, I wouldn't get into that game. You'll be in jail.
Well, no, not for cannabis. You just
Oh
gotta
yeah.
you just
All right.
gotta play your cards carefully so you don't get raided. But yeah, I told him I was gonna call him back in 2 weeks to show him some progress, and that was like 3 months ago or 2 months ago.
Gotcha.
But I don't know, man. I feel like a zombie. I'm just going through the motions. I'm not as motivated to have a deadline. Uh, I don't know. My resume is getting decorated though, which brings me to something else. You've been like browsing different opportunities in regards to the I don't know the job industry. I can't find the right word. Have you noticed the market rate is down, or have you been relaying your quotes for different jobs as a contractor and been surprised of what their their expectations are, their compensation expectations?
No, I haven't got to that point yet, and I'm mostly looking for FTE type positions at this point, not contract positions.
Okay.
Um, although I might open to contract positions, but the rates, I mean, they're all over the place, and it's market dependent. So I look at some of the jobs for startups and or certain industries that might have a hard time getting developers, and the rates are pretty good, which is what I'd expect. So I don't know. They're all about where they are, capped out at I'd say just across the board, capped out at around the 120 a year mark. just across the board. Then you plus or minus, 40 grand on that, and that's pretty much where the rates are. So 120 a year, not an hour.
I know if I'm complaining about H-1B1 visas, pretty much consuming the market pool, I can only imagine what new college grads are going through when they're competing for jobs that probably people with 10 years of experience in like other countries are bidding on here in the States.
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of companies that don't that aren't looking at outsourcing or looking at cheapness. They're looking at they want people on site first of all, or two, they want people that are native language speakers. So or in the same time zone or whatever. So I think you're only getting that competition in some of the major businesses and stuff, or big businesses where they have a lot of money to throw at IT and they don't care about how it's done.
Uh,
But that's not the kind of job I'm looking at. So, but I've got a call on Monday with a company. It's just an informational first call type thing. So I don't expect that to be anything. But they're a game company, and I guess they're headquartered in Ireland, but they've got people all over the place.
you think you got it in you to do crunch time?
I don't know, because I've never had to do it, but
I don't have it in me.
I like. I mean, if I've got, I think it depends on what it is. It is really a deal. If it's you're given some big chunk of work and it's like get this done quick or get it done, like that. That's kind of exciting because it's just like it's almost like a challenge. There's a constraint and then some big chunk of work, or some difficult piece of work that they need done. But if it's like, here's 70 individually separate little bugs that have nothing to do with each other, and I'll go and make all these things happen. It's
All right.
like 1, 2, 3. I just, if it doesn't involve any deep thought, then it might be a little rough. I just don't know.
I always view crunch time as, all right, for the next 12 weeks, we need you guys to work 70 hours. And it's weird how, like, I mean, I guess it works, but like, I would assume once you burn all that brain fuel, like, you're literally just a zombie and you're no longer thinking sharp. You're just, if you're anything like me, you're burned out because you've put in, like, for me, 8 hours, but I'm
Yeah,
sure other people probably like 10, 12 hours. They're literally doing, does it work yet? Like, your brain's not even focused anymore. You're literally just trying to bang out what works.
yeah, and I don't think I'd want to get into that type of position. There are things like that in the gaming industry, but there's also stuff that's not like that, and I'd hope that I'd land something that's not like that if I was. But there's a big difference between saying outright just saying you have to work 80 hours now, and that's it. Like, work 80 hours.
As a full-time employee, meaning that you're going to get the same paycheck
Yeah,
before you were working 80 hours. When you're doing 40, 45 hours, you're still getting the same paycheck.
yeah, yeah. So there's a difference between doing that and saying, here's the objective, like, get it done, and you get to decide how it's done, and that might mean putting hours, but it's more of a. And I think that if you're committed to the project and you believe in it and stuff like that, and you're crunch then isn't a, if crunch is a choice and one that you can mitigate if you do it, if you do things well enough, um, then I don't think that would be too big of a deal. Because again, it's more of a challenge than anything. But if a flat out, like, you have to work 80 hours and I sit back and I go, why? Like, you only gave me
Christmas.
a normal 40-hour work week. worth of work
Christmas
this week.
release, holiday season. You gotta get it out so that people can buy it on Black Friday.
Yeah, yeah. Or we need the thing is there that's a blanket assumption, like you said, that time equates to productivity, and hours. Like, what if the scheme somebody follows then would be, if not so much if you were given you have to work 80 hours, but if you were given the objective and stuff, and you decide, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to work 4 hours in the morning when I know I'm super productive. I'm going to sleep for a while and then work another 6 hours in the afternoon, and I'll get an effective 16 hours out of 10 hours worth of work or something like that. Like, if you're given the option on how to, if you're just given the objective and the time frame and said get it done, like that sounds exciting. Um, it doesn't sound exciting to be told you need to work a arbitrary number of hours because we equate that to productivity. Yeah, so it's two different things. And I'd hope that wherever I would land would be not in a crunch time. And I don't know if I would take a job if it's like mandatory overtime with no sanity around whether you actually need to have overtime or not, and without a clear objective. So yeah, but yeah, I don't know. That's just one thing. I put in a couple other applications yesterday. I actually had a pretty good work week at work where I got a big chunk of I had actually gotten a big chunk of work that was kind of more deep thinking, and it's to kind of redesign a component where there's a lot of problems and issues with it right now. And I got deep into that, and then I think yesterday or the day before, like, it was, the whole thing was elevated to a different uh, they call it capability or whatever, and now there's architects involved and stuff, and I'm just like, immediately my mind's just shut off. I took the day off today.
When
Now,
you redesign a component, hold up, that means that there is forethought in actually decoupling that component implementation from the rest of the system. So you have the ability to literally rewrite that individual component, or do you have to like identify the code in the legacy spaghetti of code and then try to extract out a component from it and rewrite it?
no, this is a uh, this component's responsibility was to kind of take in messages, and it's kind of a glorified router, but it has like one responsibility, which is basically orchestrate a bunch of messages, and then when you get all the messages that you need, send like a completion message. Um, the problem is that the consumers of the messages and the flow of it was stringed together, and there's some things that it needs to do in the middle of it that are don't happen in the same sequence always, which causes problems. And there's uh, there's like three different possible consumers for one message, and they all respond differently to different, if the states are different. So there's problems I can see in it, and then there's the fact that we're close to kind of like a go live on the thing we're working on, and so and this is pretty much central to the whole thing. So I had to be really careful to make it better, make it easier to understand and develop against, and test against too, which it's a pain because you have to set up a lot to get it to go.
And
And
probably put in
then
some monitoring stuff in there too.
yeah, all sorts of stuff, and then not break the existing, like not break it, and make it so it's compatible where I could switch between in case it does break. So it was just like, it's a complex thing to try to adapt a whole new implementation to something that's really just kind of spaghetti like. And it's not too bad because you just define the boundaries of it. You see the inputs and outputs, and you just try to build some new process that does those things. But like I said, it was a pretty fun mental game while it lasted, and I could continue to work on it now, but the thing is that now that they've elevated this as a bigger project, it allows us to actually interact with those teams that are receiving those messages and actually ask that they improve or provide some sort of real contractual obligation to the messages, which then will make the entire thing considerably more robust. So I'd feel like I'd be wasting time trying to get the old stuff or get a new implementation working with the old stuff when we can actually rethink the entire thing now. But again, it's after even just and the capability they brought in is broader than just this piece, but this being kind of central to that whole concept, they're I'm like I've spent now like 3 weeks just thinking about this and diving into it deeply. And now it's going to be probably 3 months of bubbling it up to architects to figure out what they want to do. And I'm just like, no, just let us drive this.
You ever wish that architects actually were more lead developers?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like
Well, some like I think there's a brand of architect that's good for like when you
for
get into like contract negotiations and stuff like that. And really when you get into just like certain kinds of problems that are actually architectural in nature, like performance and any of the non the non functional requirements they call them.
cross-cutting concerns.
Yeah, like security type things. Like there's room there for because those are cross cutting concerns and they're architectural in nature. Like if you structure the entire system wrong, you can have really bad um, performance problems. But when it comes to like here's a general like we have all the architectural components in place. Now it's just making sure that the implementations are rock solid. Like they have no place in that conversation in my opinion. I mean they if they were developers maybe they're not writing code.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I think the skin in the game thing is the big deal. Like anytime that you put someone in a position to make a decision, they should have to actually live with decisions that they make in terms of they have to work with it every day for a while. And that's just not the case with architecture groups usually. So sorry. You were going to make a point about them being team leads though.
No, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. Oh no, I've
Give
just
that man a
had
sandwich.
I just had some interesting experiences where it's like it's impossible for this Fortune 500 company to be this stupid. And I said it a couple times where like just certain things just don't make sense. You hire someone to draw pictures and they don't really they may know about security, but they don't know anything about just building mobile CRUD applications. They don't know anything about testing. They don't know anything really. They just know a vendor security solution, and that's it. And they're just talking out their neck. And like the business doesn't understand that. And the type of people the business hires are just yes men. They don't question anything. They don't care about the product or the service. They just follow orders so they could collect their paycheck. That's why I'm not attracted to working for big corporations, man.
Yeah.
No. For low performing or mediocre level organizations, I'm not intelligent enough to get through the interviews with the big four, big five tech companies. They occasionally Google will like email me and I'll even like talk to them once or twice. But I already know what it is. And if you're not gonna let me write in the language of my choice, then there's no point in me working for you, man. Like, I'm honored that you somehow I got on your radar somehow, but come on now, I'm not going to keep writing C sharp for Google or Amazon. I'm not going to write C sharp. I'm not. I'm not. Like, if you're going to hire me, like hire me to use a language that is more modern and I'm productive in. Don't have me writing legacy code. F that. So yeah, Google and Amazon within the last 16 months hit me up. I think I'll have a better shot at Amazon though. But,
Yeah, I haven't. I've got hit by Amazon a few times, but I've never really had interest in Amazon. I don't know why. Um, Maybe I just don't want to contribute to their global monopoly.
hater.
No, I don't know. It's probably fine. But no, I still like. I think a smaller company where there isn't those layers of architecture and analysis people and managers between you and the actual people wanting the work done.
What do you think is the worst monolithic corporation to work for? I'll tell you mine. I never worked there, but I would
Just
cringe. I would cringe if I had to work there.
like if I imagined it,
Yeah,
like what kind of place that would be. Um,
I'll give you mine.
Probably. Let me think here. Probably like either, at least in this area, like U.S. Bank or Wells Fargo or something like that. Like a big bank that doesn't have any like unless there's like a skunkworks like project that is run independently, but yeah, that would probably be the seventh level of hell for me.
Mine is IBM. I don't think I would ever. I've never heard of any thought leader that was considered cool and like liberal out of IBM. I feel like IBM is a whole bunch of like 50 to 60-year-old programmers
Yeah, that's the
in suit and
perception.
ties.
I don't
Like,
think that's the case. Yeah.
do you know any personalities out of IBM that give conference talks and that they seem like they're kind of hipster at all?
Uh, no,
No.
but I mean, their stuff is they're doing a lot of stuff with like
Cloud.
AI and machine learning and stuff like that. But they also acquired Red Hat, so and I mean, I'm sure that Red Hat's had people that have gone, but I suppose Red Hat's not IBM; they're operated separately. So, but yeah, no, it's got this you get the old image in your head of the blue suit IBM people.
With their glasses.
Yeah. Yeah.
My late mentor, he worked for IBM. Yeah, just my stereotype of that company, I think I would hate because I feel like, again, I don't know anybody that works at IBM personally right
Actually,
now.
I've known people that have worked at IBM. Come to think of it, interned there even
Okay.
in college, and they had a more relaxed atmosphere at IBM than they had at the like place I worked. Like you wear shorts to IBM, which is a big deal. Like if you talk about dress codes in the tech industry, where they care about dress codes, like if you can wear shorts, that's kind of like the indicator that they just don't care about that, and they care more about productivity. And I think IBM was that way. Now that I'm thinking about it, because I think they have a Rochester, Minnesota campus. Maybe I don't know if it's still there, but
I know. I remember I interviewed at Xamarin in San Francisco like 4 years ago. I could see myself working there. It had a startup type of feel to it. I guess technically it is a startup, even though it's been acquired. Where like their kitchen just has any. You just pick. You go to their kitchen and you just grab food. Like I've only worked at one place, and it's funny how all that stuff is only on the West Coast because I grew up in Cleveland and I live in Miami. Um, I used to live in Miami, but yeah, when I worked at Eagle View, which is in near Seattle, and then when I interviewed at Xamarin and at the Twitter building, I feel like those places they just want you to be there. It's like you could easily become a diabetic because they just give you food
Yeah,
whenever you want, and they give you free soda whenever you want. So they
yeah, I
don't want
think.
they don't want you to leave the building. They don't want you to go out for lunch. Why? Everything's here.
Yeah, I don't know if it was an actual this is real or if it was just kind of like uh, a kind of like a made up story about it. But I heard at some point in time that Google was the number one employer of homeless people because they actually it's just cheaper
Okay.
to kind of stay on the Google campus all the time than to find a house or some place to live in San Francisco area. So people just live on campus basically.
Yeah, I was looking at market rates for a one bedroom. I was horrified. Like one bedroom, $3,400 in San Francisco. How much
Yep.
are these people making?
Yeah, I don't know. It's nuts. I don't know why anybody would like. I don't understand why. I guess maybe that's because where the money is. That startups need to go there, and it's not about the developers so much as it is actually about the actual business end of the stick. Because I don't think that there's any special sauce to developers in the Silicon Valley area.
You don't think it's a tech hub that attracts some of the brightest minds?
Well, I think that it might attract bright minds to it, but I don't think that it's like if you go to Minneapolis or just in Minnesota or Cleveland probably or Miami or whatever, there's probably equally smart and talented people in those cities, but you get them for a lot cheaper. Or Austin
Um,
too. Austin's a pretty big tech hub now.
I think it's interesting you say that. So if you talk about that, Cleveland is a hub for medical professionals. So the Cleveland Clinic like attracts like top notch doctors, maybe nurses. And one would argue that when the area becomes a hub of cream of the crop or people that have been recognized for their achievements and their extended offers to relocate to that particular area, then you become a product of your environment, and maybe you're going to keep progressing just because of the company that's around you or your competitors that you're working with, right? Um, I think the same thing could apply towards other areas. So if San Francisco is a tech hub, then I think that the more the the richer the talent pool, the harder it is for mediocre folks to stay around there, and they kind of get weeded out. That might be wrong, right? My thought process of how that would work, but I feel like it's I think it's I don't know, maybe you know more than I do. Can someone that's mediocre, middle age, still do well in the Bay Area?
I think those are two different questions though. Mediocre, I have no idea, and probably middle age. I'm less inclined to believe just because it's like I think there's a real ageism thing. Like it's if you don't if you're like just rolling as a single person with no family and stuff like that, which I mean people get to middle age and don't have that, right? But if they do, I mean, you just have less time to just sit on campus and work for 90 hours on problems. So I don't know. I don't know that there's anything special coming out of Silicon Valley that's not found elsewhere. Um, I think again, it's probably more about where the money is than anything else. And there's
They
probably a lot of really talented people there too. But
and I think they have a lot of I think good schools there that are easier to recruit from. I think like what schools are in San Jose or in the Bay Area?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not
Is
West
it
Coast at all.
UCLA or something? I don't know. Yeah,
I
I don't
don't
know.
I don't know where Berkeley is. I don't know where. Yeah, I don't know. But people go there. But I also think people are leaving there, especially during these economic times.
Well, yeah, they're all going to Austin. Texas is the new place to go.
Intel is in Austin. I know Dell's in Austin. Where's Intel at? I thought Intel was in Texas.
I'm not sure. Maybe.
I never hung out in Texas. Have you been to Texas?
Yeah, I've been there a few times.
Could you
Never
see yourself living there?
in Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. It's kind of a nice state.
I'm scared to commit a crime of passion. I feel like it's instantly death penalty down there.
You can drive and drink beer at the same time. Texas.
I don't believe that. Now if you're black, no. I don't believe that at all. Even
You
if you're
can.
white. I
You
don't
can.
believe that.
It's illegal. You can't be drunk and drive, but you
You
can
can't have
have
an
a
open
beer.
container
Yeah.
while driving.
Yeah, unless they've changed it in the last X many years, you can actually have an open container in Texas. I'm gonna fact check myself now.
I don't believe that. I feel like that's a federal law. I know it's a state, but it seems federal.
Oh, maybe it's changed. Oh man,
In
I'm all
Texas,
wrong.
yeah.
Don't take me as legal advice.
Yeah. Um.
Oh, it's on a public highway. It's illegal. Uh, yeah, they must have changed this. Maybe it was just a maybe it was just a
Loophole or something.
I don't know. Maybe it was just a like a not an anecdote, like an old wives' tale, or what do they call them? Like just like a myth or what? I don't know.
Urban legend. No,
Yeah, now I'm all sad. I swear, like Texas was like that open, but
no.
whatever happened to it?
Now the 6 blocks that they have over in Seattle, that's police free. You could probably do that, but
Oh man, it's been a while now.
I kind of want to go over there just to
Okay,
knock
so
it off my bucket list.
they made it illegal in like 2001. So, well, whatever. It was legal before 2001, anyways.
I really wish you would learn F sharp.
If I have a reason to, I will.
How's that little component working out for you in C sharp?
The one that I was building out.
No disrespect, but
Good man. I can write some pretty solid C# code.
would you know when you're fighting the compiler to get something done?
When I'm fighting it?
Yeah.
What do you mean when I'm fighting it?
Like,
I want to fight the compiler sometimes. It tells me what I need to know.
when have you ever, and I think we all have, maybe I should say lately, have you ever experienced that the code that you're writing, even with your experience level, still seems way too complicated to accommodate whatever item that you're trying to solve?
It depends on what you mean by complicated, but verbose, yes.
Okay, verbose.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know that that's a limitation of what we've got. I mean, and I know that would be what F# would bring to the game. Is just it would make everything cleaner and smaller. But
Do you subscribe to inheritance outside of UI?
Uh, mm, Depends on the situation, and I sometimes use inheritance as a means to do unions, um, but otherwise I tend to stay away from it now. Because I had one experience where I built something and I had like I'm like, oh, I'll put all this stuff in a base class because it's shared code, and that was like the biggest mistake ever, because you had to jump back and forth between the subclass and the base class to try to figure out what the hell was going on. I'm like, I'm never doing that again. But there are cases where it helps when you're dealing with when you do have a true inheritance relationship, but those are so rare, and those are actually so rare. Uh, there's cases, like I said, where I want unions, and then they're useful to achieve that. You could use an interface though to do the same thing, but there's some things with abstract classes you can get that, I mean, you can put the discriminator type on the actual class, but yeah, I don't know. So no,
I
that's
mean,
not
I've
really my answer to answer. No, I don't prefer. I prefer composition over inheritance now, for sure.
recently, like within a couple of days, I used inheritance. Um, I wrote it in F sharp just because I was trying to troubleshoot a data binding issue or a two-way binding issue, and so and in my C sharp code that has a dependency on the F sharp class that I wrote, I ran into this order dependency where in my value converter I have to say if this item is whatever class, then do this. Else, if this item is whatever other class, do that. But then because it was inheritance, it was always taking the base class first because I had it as the first expression. So I was getting myself in trouble with that. But I
Yeah,
don't know. It's things you take for granted. Oh, 4 more minutes. I'm tapping out. I want to take today off too, man.
can you? Or like as a contractor, and because you're an independent contractor, right? Or you're not an FTE.
I thought I was hired as a consultant, but the way I'm treated is a contractor.
Yeah. Are you
Meaning,
being consulted with, or are you doing work?
I've earned their respect, but they they still haven't accepted the fact that I I reserve the right to pick and choose what type of work that I do. And just because you tell me to do something doesn't mean that I'm forced to do it. I'm not a full time employee. So I try to have those conversations with them, but they kept cutting me off and talking over me. So right now they believe I'm a contractor, and I guess as long as I continue accepting the paychecks. I mean, I have one. I told them I don't want to work on this. They're like, you don't tell us what you want to work on. You need to be a team player. And then after I kept on writing essays about my concerns about what my lead was doing, they're like, you know what? Just here's this project, Sal. You could just work on that. You don't have to be on this project anymore. So that's how you get out of projects if you don't get fired. You just keep writing essays about everything that's wrong with the direction that you think they're going in, and you just keep writing essays
Yeah.
and make sure that they're intelligently thought out when you write it. So yeah,
Yeah, as I'm kind of geared up to try to vacate. We have a program right going on, like a beta type launch type thing going on right now, and there's like they were putting together like an on call schedule, and I'm just like, no, I'm not going to be on call. uh, I'm just not going to do it. I'm like, if if I believed that they actually, when I knew there were problems, or if I had problems and I knew that they were there and I knew people that could fix it. Like, sorry, what am I trying to say here? I'm still waking up. If I believe that they actually wanted to try to fix problems I know that are there that could come up, or we had the liberty to be involved in some of the decision making, or if we had the option of being some of the decision making, or we're involved in some of the implementation for some of the things, like if we actually owned the whole app or own the solution, then I'm all over it, because I know that I'm not going to get called for anything that wasn't something that, that I could have some sort of control over. But as soon as you take away that ownership or control, it's like, now you're just making me potentially have to wake up in the middle of the night just for somebody else's problem. Not somebody else's problem, because somebody else, something that I couldn't help and you won't let me fix could happen. And it's like, I don't know. And that's probably it. That's probably a bad attitude to have. But when you're maybe hopefully on the way out too, maybe it's not so bad. I don't know. I'm sure employers would just be like, oh, you gotta always be on call. It's like, yeah, give me ownership, and I'll be 100% on call there. I will definitely, as long as you give me the tools and trust me to do what I need to do, and don't put up walls if we need to fix something, and actually prioritize, fixes across teams, and don't have architects that make decisions that affect me that I can't control.
I agree, and I asked for the same thing. But how do you address the getting hit by the bus response?
Well, that's two different things. You can have a team with that kind of ownership. It's not the same thing. It's like, so the team that I'm on, we are basically at the edge with the user, right? So every possible problem is going to come through us first, mostly, because it'll manifest itself as a boundary issue, right? Like the customer can't do X in the system that they interact with. Well, the first person you're going to ask is the people that have that system that the user is interacting with, because it interacts with a bunch of other things. The thing is those people at the other end, like, we might know that this problem could happen, and we bring it up, but they don't address it. And it's that kind of stuff is bothersome to me. Like, and the people that are sitting behind those things, they don't have the same level of, like, we're going to get called in the middle of the night. They're not as worried about it. So it's not so much that I'm probably just marketing this wrong, or saying it wrong, because it's not like I want to say, like, I need to know everything that goes on in the system. It's just, when I know there's problems, or I know that things are failing, I want to have a piece of the decision making process in how we prioritize these fixes and things. Like, is this something I could be woken up in the middle of the night for, that will cause the user great harm? Like, that is way more important than me than like, I'll give you something really stupid. I had to go into a chunk of code and change a bunch of logging event codes so that they started at 1,000 in number.
Okay.
Like, this was an actual PBI. I had, like, an work item I had to go do, was go into this component that I built and modify it so that all of the event codes started at 1,000. And I'm like, why? And nobody could give me an answer. And it was just like, shut up and do it. I'm like, you're telling me
No
that?
one can answer it,
No, I asked like many times. I'm like, I see that
but it was
the example,
prioritized.
yeah, because it was logging standards, and I'm like, I can see that it's like the example that they gave used it at 1,000, and I know that we used over 1,000 in this other thing to try to prevent collisions between multiple services that were hosted in the same thing. But like, why is this wrong? It's just if it's like a contained component that has its own log trace like set up.
My thought process is, if I could guess, it's based on the first digit, what class of error it is.
Well, that's
1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and then whatever
yeah,
number.
yeah. And the example that they gave, if you look at it, that's what they were doing. Is that they used 1,000 for standard like kind of informational codes. They used 4,000 for like error codes that were client based. So like they matched it up to HTTP status ranges, and that was the what they had in the. That's not how we were using it. Like we were just using it to string together like sequences within a thing. So like I could understand that, but nobody that wasn't the thing. It was just like here's this arbitrary requirement, and we're prioritizing the work when there's other things we could be looking at together.
And the architect didn't explain
Now,
why.
this is like a group thing, like a guild thing that people no. I asked like repeatedly, so I went in there and made them all in the millions because I'm like, well, how do I know next week they're not going to want me to raise it to millions? So I had like, and then I took every number and made it its own range. So it's like the first one starts at 1 million, the next one is 2 million. I used in C# you can do for literals, you can put underscores between numbers now.
Yep.
Yeah, so I added those in there.
I actually did that about 3 days ago.
Yeah, which was good because actually somebody didn't know you could do that, and so now that they is actually kind of a teaching moment type thing because it's totally arbitrary why they have to be over 1,000. The numbers are arbitrary. We don't have a scheme for meaning. That would make sense to me. Somebody comes to you and says, any error ones, make them 4,000 or 5,000. Okay, then I get it. Like, but it wasn't about that. It's like here's a set, just an enumeration of numbers, but they have to start at 1,000.
Yeah. On that note,
sorry. Yeah, I know you gotta go eat. I just want to talk. So,
what are you doing this weekend?
Camping.
I feel like you do a lot of outdoor stuff. You bring your dogs with you?
No, they stay here. We have our niece coming over to watch them, let them out and stuff. But no, it's my wife's family does a lot of camping, and so we end up going with them a lot.
Y'all get tents or y'all have an RV?
We've got a pop-up camper.
What does that mean?
I wonder if I could show you.
I could Google it.
Or you can't really see it from here. I wonder if you could. You can kind of see it. It's like basically it's like a kind of like an RV type thing, but it's just like when you get them, they come like flat, and then there's a top that kind of pops up, and then you pull out edges for beds.
Okay. So
yeah.
you attach it to or you haul it. How many people can that fit?
That ours, we can probably sleep. So there's like a queen or a king, and then like a full, and then another pull out, and then another like cot, so that we can actually probably sleep. Probably like we could almost fit probably 10 people in there. When you take kids who are smaller, it's probably even more. But like if you really were trying to stuff people in there, you can fit a lot of people actually.
How much do those cost?
They range anywhere. Like brand new ones are probably like in the 10, 12 grand. I don't know, but like we bought ours used for like $3,000.
I would use that, attach it to a pickup truck, and just park it at Google parking lot or Amazon parking lot, and I would just live there.
Yeah, they're pretty nice. I mean, they're airy, and open and you, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they don't have showers or whatever, so you go to the.
My
They don't have water. Hold on, what are you supposed to do
no,
for water? Period.
well, some of them have tanks, so this one has a tank, and we have a little sink in it, and that's the only thing that it would be used for. We don't really use it much, but they usually have tanks that you fill up with water, and that'll last you a while. My brother-in-law's camper actually, he's got a shower in the back. It's outside, so you'd have to put up a curtain, but it technically has a shower. It's
Yo,
heated.
I will roll up to the parking lot at a nightclub or strip club and be like, I'm ready. Yeah, I like this. This is dope.
Yeah, they're pretty cool, and they're coming all sorts of sizes. Ours is actually a pretty big one because it's got this pull out thing too and everything. A lot of them don't have that. A lot of them are smaller. You can get them pretty small and up to the size that we have. So it's all over the place.
I wish they can float.
Maybe that could be a new thing. It's called pontoon, man,
If it could float, then I could use it for a
our boathouse.
sandbar party.
Just get a pontoon then.
I don't know what a
Pontoons.
pontoon is.
Really, man.
I'm from Cleveland. I don't know this stuff. What's a pontoon? How do you even spell
Pontoon.
pontoon?
Pontoon.
Platoon, pontoon. Oh, I've seen this before.
It's like it's just like a big floating
When I,
island.
when I was looking at these, they were costing like 20,000.
Yeah, they're kind of spendy. You can get older ones that are kind of I mean, if you're getting a brand new like high end one, they're going to be really expensive. You can get an older one that's maybe got some torn up seats or whatever, and maybe the carpet's frayed or whatever. But that stuff, if you reupholster it, pretty fine. And maybe a smaller engine. But yeah, if you're looking for the luxury models with the leather seats and all that, they're pretty spendy.
Because in Miami, man, people just pull up to restaurants on these boats. Well, just on boats, period. Whether it's a yacht or they'll have these little, I guess they're called pontoons. They just pull up to restaurants, dock it, and then eat and drink.
Yeah, they do that here too. We have a couple lakes that are larger that have restaurants on them. People just drive up their boats, and actually, my coworker, their son and maybe their daughters worked at the dock, so they like help get the boats docked up and everything like that, and then they get tips.
Yeah, in downtown Miami, it costs $50 to dock it. Well, at this one restaurant, I'm like, I don't know. Half of everybody's drug dealers anyway, so I guess they got it.
Yeah, but you're looking for like a more of a, if you wanted something like pop up on water, it'd be more like a boathouse, wouldn't it?
I want a convertible. I want to be able to park in a lot of a nightclub and then like immediately take it into the water, like, and it just float. Like, I want that. I want two in one.
Yeah,
So
I don't know that. Well, I guess I could imagine it. Like if you had a flatbed, like you could probably invent it, right? If you had like a flatbed bed truck and you took like basically the equivalent of a pontoon and put it on there, and then put a camper, like a camper on top of that, or a pop up
yeah,
camper.
you
You could do it.
basically you need the chassis because they already have vehicles. They run about $50,000 that they're essentially what's the right way? They're kind of like larger ATVs that can go in the water. So they're out there. They cost about $50,000, and I'm not sure how reliable they are. I would think you just need that chassis, and then you could just, like you said, do whatever else to
Yeah.
throw something on top of it. I don't know what it's called though. No, I'm too lazy to Google it.
All right.
Hey, it's
You
been
need to go
real.
eat a sandwich or something, man.
All right, that's all. See ya. Bye.
Keep going. Bye.